You know, it's so long since I've done a video that I can't even remember some of the Banggood kits that I've got lying around. So, and I don't even know what this one is. I do not know what's in here. I have no idea. So this is going to be a journey of exploration for us all. So let's open this beastie up. It's got, by the looks of things, the good old-fashioned clear acrylic cases that they love so much. So yep, there's a clear acrylic case of some description for some purpose. Who knows? Let's have a look. Well, we have, let's get it all out of this packet. Plenty of hardware, obviously, for putting the case together. We've got a rocker switch in there. Look at that. I've never seen a rocker switch in one of these kits. I don't know what this is. I can't remember. You order this stuff and I'll never get around to making them or doing videos on them. And oh, this looks something very exciting in here. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Covered in bubble wrap, of course. Oh, it's a lump of metal. I'm seriously confused. I do not know what the hell this is. Okay, there's that. We have a pre-made board which plugs in, obviously, to, one would assume, the main board. Right, let's get rid of some of this plastic and open up the last pack. I shall leave. I'm assuming this is static sensitive. Actually, that isn't. That riser is separate, so it needs to be soldered separately, but I'm assuming that is static sensitive, so I have to keep an eye on that when I'm playing about with it. Let's see what's in here. Ugh. Okay, some more standoffs. There's a right angle one there of some description, and we have a plastic clip, plug, whatever you want to call it, a couple of resistors, more connectors. I don't know if that's, I have no idea what that is. I've seen them loads of times, but I couldn't tell you what it is. This is a real mystery. I don't. This is silly. There's more hardware in there as well. We have some good old-fashioned push-to-make buttons there, and we have a big old STC chip, which we see so commonly in many of these kits. There's a board there, which that chip is no doubt going to go on. I'm still none the wiser. Let's see if this last pack, the contents of which will tell us what we're dealing with. We have a display, very reminiscent of a clock that I made some time ago. These are nice displays, blue backlit, but very nice LCD backlit display. So I'm liking the look of that. Nothing in there. That's it. Lots of hardware, a switch. Oh, come on, my brain is just not working. We have got this lump of metal which looks like it's got some sort of sensor attached to it. It has got machined holes for... that says 3 kilograms. I think I know what this is. I think this is a set of scales, and it does up to 3 kilograms, and perhaps that's the sensor for the weight. Yes, that's what this is. Okay, I think the mystery is solved. I'm intrigued to know what this is. This wire connected to anything, or is it just wire? No, oh no, it's a connector for something, and I say a good old amount of hardware, nuts, bolts, and all the rest of it. So there we go. That proves just how long ago it was that I last saw this. Now we've got a power supply jack, but there's no cable. Not a problem. I have got cables for these, but and I don't know what the supply voltage needs to be. Is there anything on the? It says power, but it doesn't have voltage on the silk screen. With a bit of luck, it's USB. But there we go. So what this is a set of scales. What I need to do now is, because I don't think I'm going to work this out without instructions. I probably could do, but my little brain doesn't operate at too fast a speed these days. So, I mean, like for example, that's going to go on there like that, isn't it? So that's fairly straightforward, and then God knows what plugs into that. We have got a socket here. I presume there's a chip. Anything here? It looks like a timer chip, 555 timer. Let's have a quick look. There's a 24C16N. Don't know what that does, but then again, I don't know what any of it does. Ha ha ha, hurrah! We have an LED. I do like things that light up, which of course this will do as well. So, right, I'm going to go and track down the instructions and see if we can't put this puppy together. Well, I've had a look on Banggood, and there are some instructions. Actually, no, there aren't any instructions. There is circuit diagrams, and there also look like some sort of data files for programming it. So I don't know if it's going to work off the bat, or whether I do indeed need to program it. And if I do, how the hell do I do that? I haven't got a clue. So probably the sensible thing to do is to look at each component, decide what their functionality is, and then slowly construct and reverse engineer the whole device. Or we could just wing it. I'm going to wing it and just start putting bits on the board, and hopefully all will become clear. But it does annoy me that they put together these kits, and they really are quite nice kits. In terms of price, this costs I think about £14, which doesn't make it the cheapest kit I've ever made from Banggood, but I had high hopes for it. So it's not particularly cheap in those terms, and I don't think it's a great deal to ask for a set of instructions. Some do, some don't. I just don't quite get the logic of not doing it. They just let you work it out for yourself. I mean, for example, here you've got a variable pot there, a trimmer pot. Do I need to trim that? Or do I have a reference weight on the scales and trim it to that weight? For example, that kind of would make sense if that was the case, but I don't know. Is this static sensitive? Am I going to fry it if I touch it? I don't know. It's in a static sensitive bag, so one assumes that's possible. Yeah, needs instructions. So, any rate, that's the rant over and done with. Let's first of all change my spectacles to ones that help me see when I'm doing stuff like this, and try and bring the camera over a little bit, and we'll start sort of slotting things in eels. Now there seems to be only 2 resistors, and are they the same value? Yeah, they are the same value. So I'm not even going to bother looking up what the value of them is, because there's only 2 of them. Oh, it says 1K on the board, so that's what the value of these is. I couldn't tell you what the value of resistors just by looking at the bands are. I just ain't that clever. So let's start populating the board with whatever we can. and hopefully we will eventually get an idea. But I think I'm going to have to try and find some instructions, perhaps on YouTube. A bit ironic really, isn't it? I'm making a YouTube video about making something which I'm going to go and have to have a look at a YouTube video to understand how to do. That makes sense, does it? Never mind. It's all for fun at the end of the day. Look, a couple of resistors placed in their proper homes. What else have we got? We've got a crystal. I thought I saw, yeah, there it is. There's a crystal, and that's going to live in there. Probably shouldn't bend the pins on this, but I am. There you go. Bent. Too late. We have a couple of little ceramic caps. 22, is that 22 puff? Is this the same value? That one hasn't got any markings on it at all, so that's handy. Let's see if we've got anything marked on the board. Oh, there's a 22 there. Okay, so there's a 22 there, and the other one's marked 22. So, all right, so they're going to both be 22 puff. Those two can go in there. Just get as many of these slotted in as I possibly can, and then grab the soldering iron and pull it all together. Solder it up. I can't see very well today. Normally I get the old magnifying glass out. Perhaps that'll help me a bit. There we go. Aging eyesight. Well, I got the lenses in my glasses are like the bottom of milk bottles. I probably said that before, but guess what? I just said it again. The trouble is, when you get old, you start repeating yourself. Trouble is, when you get old, you start repeating yourself. Okay, it's an old joke, but it ain't costing you nothing to watch this, is it? Right, so there's a couple of they in there. Of a P37 and a P36. Hurrah, whatever the hell that is. Ah, right, I'm kind of suspecting that this is... Nope, that's not going to live in either of those. I would imagine this is one of the riser connectors. So it could even be this one, actually. Perhaps that lives in there. I think that's more than likely, but we'll park that for a minute. We've got a 10k, what I would imagine, yeah, so that's going to be the 10k pot to go in there. Let me see this, can I zoom in a bit for you? I'll kind of leave it in the rough vicinity of the magnifying glass, and I should be in shot most of the time. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is grab myself a bit of solder, which is always handy when you're soldering, I find, and we can start putting some of these components into their respective homes, and then chip away at each of these components and at least wear down the components. I mean, when it comes to things like this, you know, got all these wires, I do not know where those wires are going to go to. I don't know how we're going to construct the case. I don't know anything at the moment. I have no idea what that's for. Oh well. Let's get rid of some of this, get this out of the way, and we can, if I bring this over here a bit, bring you into shot a bit more, bring this down, and then hopefully we can both see what's going on. I'm kind of hidden behind this camera and not necessarily being able to see what's happening. But yeah, this is annoying. That oh god. Oh Lord, I don't think the iron's hot enough yet. Come on. Very, very old soldering iron this. I must have had it 25, 30 years. I have replaced the tip on it, but it's been such a solid device that I've never felt the need to go and buy a new one. There is nothing wrong with this one. Alright, that's better. Yeah, the iron wasn't quite hot enough just then. So, let's get these, and these, what's this, the resistors, I think. It looks quite nicely designed board and nice large soldering pads, which makes my life a lot easier. I haven't seen any, I don't think we're dealing with surface mount. In fact, the only surface mount we've got is on that ready-made board, so at least we won't be mucking about with surface mount components today. Right. Let's get these capacitors in, and the... I've done that one, I have, haven't I? I'm struggling. I'm really, really struggling to see what I'm doing here. This is not good. Don't know. I don't seem to have anything set up very well at the moment. The other problem I've got is that I've got this larger tip on my soldering iron today because I was doing some jobs a little while ago that required heat on a large metal surface, and the normal small pointed tip that I normally use just wasn't spreading the heat about, so I had to change it for this one. But of course now I've got this dirty great tip on the end here. It's not so good in my experience for these sorts of kits. So I think that's okay. Need to get some cutters and just snip off the legs of those components. I am going to have to stop and search for instructions because the opportunity for cock up here is absolutely apocalyptic, and that would be a shame. Particularly, as I say, this wasn't a particularly cheap kit. I'm not made of money. That's why I make kits like this. Get rid of the bits and pieces. So let's see what other components we've got. Got this little slider switch here. Single position. So now we've got set, up, down, reset. So those are going to be push to make buttons. This has got, is that likely to go on there? I think it probably would actually, because, well, I don't know. Might not. Yeah, seems logical it would. I'm wondering if that is a switch to change values, perhaps from kilograms to pounds or something like that. I don't know. We know that we've got a 10k variable pot here, so I think we're fairly safe in being able to say it's going to live in there, something like that. Let's solder that one in. I think I might change back to the smaller tip because this is going to bug me otherwise. It means cooling down the iron before I can do that, because it will be red hot at the moment, obviously. But we shall persevere with what we've got. So that's that. Should have made sure it was straight. It's a little bit. Probably bent it too far. No, that's about right. I'm happy with that. Right, we've got an electrolytic cap kicking about here somewhere. So what's this one? This is where are we? 105 degrees. 10 microfarad at 25 volts. 10 microfarad. And oh, rats, I can never remember which is plus and which is minus. Is the shaded area minus or is the clear area minus? I've got a feeling that the shaded area is the minus. Like that. I shall just leave it in there for the moment. I'll go and double check because it would be pretty stupid not to check. And there's another one there, so we must have another. There it is, another 10 microfarad. So we shall do the same there. Now these buttons will all go in there like that. So they snap in there very neatly. Shall I just do all of those? You're getting the idea now, at any rate. Do you get the feeling you're dealing with a professional here? If you have, you've got the wrong feeling. Right, that goes in. Yeah, they go in there very nicely. At least they drilled the holes out in a very... in fact, you can see here that those holes are more oval than the ones than these two, and so that's to take the shape of the switch. So, you know, that's nicely thought through. It's just little details like that that are worth appreciating every now and again. There's another switch there, and this is the reset switch. Oh, do come on. Right, there we go. And I'm going to solder those up, of course. Pretty pointless if I didn't. I mean, theoretically, as I say, it's all through-hole stuff. So theoretically, this kit shouldn't take too long to throw together. And hopefully, it will be a genuinely useful and accurate set of scales. I'll be honest with you, I'm not holding my breath on that front, and I have run out of solder. But, don't know, it might be fine. I mean, some of these kits have been very, very disappointing. I made a radio a little while ago where it was really nice. Again, see-through acrylic case, and the construction of it was great, and the quality of the board and everything. But the electronics just weren't right, because every time you tried to change stations, it just made horrific noise. And it was actually designed that way, although I rather suspect it wasn't designed that way, because the instructions told you you basically lower the volume while it's searching, which doesn't make sense. And I think they possibly designed the circuit, couldn't work out how to stop it making that horrible noise when it's searching for a radio station. They said, to hell with it, we'll sell it like that, and just put an instruction in there to reduce the volume. Well, yeah, that doesn't quite work that way. Okay, I know we're not dealing with Apple or Samsung here or something like that, but it was only an FM radio, for crying out loud. Not exactly modern technology. Okay. Oops. That didn't work. Right, and try that again. Is that all the switches done? Yeah, I think so. Right. So we've got this slider switch. What else have we got? We've got, I'll tell you what we could do. We do have a socket for the large chip. There you go, there's a socket there. So why don't we do that? Now let's just make sure that, now we've got A09103. Nope, that's not what that is. That's an A103J. Although that might still be it. And I'm guessing that could very well sit in there, and then this, I reckon it goes like that. And there's a dot there on the component, and then on the silk screen, let's get rid of that, there's one of the pins is boxed off and square, which would suggest pin 1 or negative, I don't know, I'm not sure this component is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where that lives. Like that. Do you know what? I'm going to go with that. I am going to go with that. Let's see if I can just tack it down with a bit of solder so it doesn't fall out the other end when I let go. Right. Let's just put it at a bit of an angle like that. Just make it a little. Just make it a bit easier to solder. Okay. I really am winging this at the moment. I mean, obviously some of these components, or most of these components are pretty obvious, but I could have quite easily installed that large chip without thinking straight and looking at the silk screen to realise that it was a component that needs to go underneath it. Wouldn't have been a disaster because it's, you know, it's got a socket, so I can always pull the chip out, but I won't install the chip yet in any case. I'll just do the socket. So I probably ought to do a better job of pin 1 on there, wouldn't I? Yeah. So let's have a look at our handiwork. I can't see any bridges or silliness going on. See if we can straighten that up a little bit. I don't want to move. It's welded down there very nicely. So let's put the socket in. And now, I don't think I can, but now, there we go. But there's a load of pins here, which I'm guessing means I have got to install, just make sure, yeah. So basically we've got these rows of holes here. I'll find something better to point with. Use my dirty great finger wouldn't be much use. Right, let's try this. Right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. The two outer ones will, I think it's the two outer ones, will accommodate the socket holder for the chip, like that. But if I solder those down, or solder that down now, then I can't get access to soldering these holes, because I rather suspect they need to be soldered this side, not the other side. And I would think it's probably where this stuff comes into play, because this will then, I assume, plug into something. I don't know. I mean, what would these plug into with that amount of pins? There isn't, oh well, I suppose it could plug into that and that, but they're shorter. They're not going to be using up all the holes along there, so I don't know. I think I really do need to go and try and hunt down some instructions of some description. I'm trying to think what goes in there. That one there. And we've got D13 there. That presumably is going to be the D for diode. That's going to be this guy. Plus will be the longer pin, so that will live in there like that. Let's just place them down for now. Need to double check the correct polarity for these electrolytic caps. I think I've got it right there, but I will double check before soldering, because it'd be a pain in the bum if I haven't. Got all the switches installed, the crystal, whatever the hell that is, and I cannot remember what that is. I'm loath to put any more on at the moment, because I need to be clear. So, for example, where's it gone? Yeah, this right angle connector must go this side of the board. I'm pretty sure it must go this side of the board. Or does it need to go this side of the board? Like that? I doubt it. I suspect it goes this way. But sod's law being what it is, I'll put it that way and then find out it should be the reverse. So I have got to double check this, otherwise it could be a disaster in the making. I guess that's 11 megahertz, that crystal. 11.0592. Okay, right. So that's where we are at the moment. And I'm going to hunt down some instructions and see if I can make sure I don't make a complete horse's arse of the job. Right, well, it's a day or so later now, and the reason for that is that it has taken me an age to search the internet and to find out exactly how to build this thing, primarily how to wire up this weight sensor, or whatever the hell it is, with this board. And you can see the 4 wires, which I've sort of tried to wrap together, make it a bit neater, like I'm doing here. I haven't quite finished doing that yet, just to make it neater. It's been an absolute nightmare, but yeah, so just through lack of instructions, no instructions, it's just ridiculous. Anyway, let's just show you how it's all put together so you don't have to search around the internet. So here we go. Let's do a bit of focusing. There we go. So you can see there we've got a connector strip there, which is the correct length. We have a power switch here. Now, I decided not to fit. For some reason, they give you this switch as well as this switch, which goes in the acrylic case, and then this cable will plug into there. Or I've actually got the actual socket and the plug together here, but that will be soldered in where that switch is, and then the cable will go off to the switch. I've got plans for this. I want to use this for something else. It's actually quite a nice little switch. So I thought, well, when I'm going to use this, if I do decide to use it for any regular purpose at all, I'll just leave it permanently switched on, and I'll just plug in the power supply when I need it, and it'll just come on immediately. So that was the decision, or the decision there. This port here, which I have installed, I think is probably for programming, because when you go onto the website and download what are supposed to be the instructions, which there are none, apart from a circuit diagram, which is actually useful, but other than that, it downloads a load of program files, which I think if you've got an Arduino or something like that, you can program it to do other stuff, which I haven't really bothered looking into, and I'm not into Arduinos and all that sort of stuff. So any road up, that's the construction of it. You can see the orientation of the electrolytic caps there and there, couple of little resistors there and there, and it's all fairly straightforward as far as that's concerned. Both chips are installed. Yeah, now the this board here, which obviously talks to this sensor and then passes the data it collects from that into this and the display drive and all the rest of it, I suppose. I just put 4 pins in there from part of the number of connectors that they give you. So these things just snap off, and so I just snapped off 4 in a row and used that to connect it to the main board like that. At least I don't know if that's the right way of doing it. It's the way I did it. But importantly, the one thing I couldn't find or couldn't quite work out with any degree of confidence was the correct wiring for the 4 wires from the sensor. So green, white, black, red in this orientation is what I've come up with. And well, let's see, we've got the display, where is it, there we go, which again I've had to solder on a strip, as you can see there. And that, I'm looking at through the camera, I shouldn't be doing this really. It's got the wrong glasses on, I've got trying to look through the camera and it's all going very horribly wrong. There we go. So that just clips in there. Incidentally, that pot there is, well, I'll show you that in a minute. So what about powering it up? Well, let me show you what I did. Just 1 minute. Right, okay, so how do we power this thing? Well, the first thing I tried was a power supply that I had here with the correct connector. I should have looked at the circuit diagram for the power supply, but I just went and found this and I thought, oh, 12 volts at 3 amps. Well, it's going to do one of 2 things. It's going to power it up, or it's going to blow it to itty bits. And I tried it, and it was all right. However, I did eventually find a power supply, which is quite simply one of these with a USB cable. The other end of the cable's in my USB charger at the moment, so at any rate, and that's fine. So 5 volts USB, absolutely fine. That's all you need. It didn't come with a cable, so I managed to find this one. So let's see. Plug it in and switch it on. And bugger all happens. Wonder why that is. dear. We don't seem to have power. Why have we not got power? Let me try a different one. I have got several of these. Let's try this one, see if this... There we go. Right, there we go. Welcome to use 0 grams and 0070, whatever the hell that means. Now, basically, this will now register some movement, like that. I mean, obviously it needs to be put in the case, but it appears to be working, is really what I'm coming down to. So that's good. This down here is, in fact, to alter the contrast of the screen. So you can see there, like that. But yeah, about there. Really nice screen. Very nice, bright, backlit screen. So that's a good part of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this part 1, because part 2 is going to be about trying to work out how the hell I build the case. And I'm not too sure it's going to fit in properly with this stuck out there like that. I have no idea. And then there's all these other plastic bits, whether these are cut-offs or whether they're actually used for something. I don't know. But we will find out. So that's part 2. We don't need these bits. These are all superfluous. There's some more stuff over here, screws and things. And as I say, I'm going to use this switch for something else. So there we go. And that's part 1, and part 2 will be the construction of the case. So I will see you in that video. Hope you enjoyed this one. It's been a bit of a roller coaster because there was no instructions, and I really did need to find out exactly how. Although the majority is unplugged that, although the majority of the construction's actually very logical and straightforward, and I put it together with no need for instructions. I didn't know what this wiring was. I didn't know how this board was going to be mounted. I didn't know what that was for. But all has now become slightly less muddier waters than might have otherwise been. So yeah, let's see if we can't complete this. But as I say, I'll do that in another video a little later. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see what other exciting things one can do with other bits and pieces. I'm not necessarily always going to be doing electronic kits. There's other things I'd like to talk about and do, so yeah, we'll see. All the best for now. Ta-ta.